Hello humans, it's just Martine, and today we're going to be talking through my August reading statistics. Looking at some of these statistics, it's a little weird because August is technically one of my lowest reading months of the year so far. And yet, it wasn't a bad reading month. I'm going to say these things and you're going to be like, yeah, sounds like another good reading month. And it was. But just know that some of the overall numbers seem lower for things like total books read or total pages read, specifically total pages read. According to Bookly, I read 104 hours in the month of August. Again, not the greatest, but also not the worst. But according to Bookly, I read 8,000 something pages. I don't know, I'll put it here, which is lower than I would want it to be. But again, most people would be like, that's a great reading month. So it really doesn't matter. It's just of note. In total, in August, I read 27 books for a total of, according to my spreadsheet, 9,346 pages. Again, that's inflated because I only count the books that I finish in my spreadsheet. It works out every month. Anyway, the point is about 9,000 pages for an average pages per day of 311.53, which is significantly less than the average pages per day from the months before, because in July it was 451.47. So that's over 100-page difference. That's significant, but still a great number of pages per day. And my average page count for books was 346.15. Lower than July, because in July I exclusively read chunks, but way higher than June, which is when Wonderathon messed me up with my small books. So overall, a really good one. And it's above 300 pages, so I like it. My most read genre was sci-fi. 18 of my books had representation and 12 were from authors that I had read from before. Okay, let's jump into some fun graphs, shall we? Okay, first we have genre. As always, this graph is all over the place. Sci-fi was my biggest one, but technically has the exact same number of books as mystery. Mystery for some reason has been coming in hot this year. It's one of my top genres the whole year. Additionally, some big categories were romance, and I read 3 classics, which I think is an inordinate number of classics to read in a month for me. So that's notable. Also, 2 horror books is a bit much for me. It's just not common. But we have all types of things here. Magical realism, at least one of them, at least one strictly fantasy book, 2 contemporaries, my 2 adventures, my Magic Treehouse books, my babies, 1 nonfiction. So, we're kind of all over the place, per usual, but I really like that about my reading. I like that it's so all over the place. Okay, book size. This has been a big thing that I've been focusing on so far during the second half of this year, because I want my overall statistics for the year to be that the majority of the books that I read are medium to large or chunky this year. I'm definitely going to amend that next year because I'm just a short book girly at heart. But for right now, I'm trying to keep my percentage of short books, which is books under 300 pages, below 50%. This month really helped with that because, as you can see, only 25.9 of the books I read were less than 300 pages. The vast majority of them, 19 of them, that's 70.4% of them, were medium, so between 300 and 500 pages. And then we have 1 chunky book, which is over 700 pages. So we totally left out the middleman. The thing was, in July, I read a lot of books between 500 and 700 pages, which is the large category. Anything above 700 is chunky in my spreadsheet. So we just skipped over large. We read 1 chunky book, and I will tell you that that chunky book, which you'll hear about later this year, wink wink, is the large reason that my reading for this month was good hours wise and less page count wise, because that was a slow read. But overall, very pleased with my book size. And that also leaves me, in case you were wondering, very solidly where I want to be for this year in terms of overall book size, because my small is sitting at 45.1%. We love to see it. Next, we have star ratings. This was a big 4 and 3.5 star month. Those are usually my 2 biggest categories, but everything else is smaller, it feels like, this month. And also there's more variety in the low ratings. I did get a 1.5 star in there, a 2 star, 2.5, but I did get a couple 5 stars, at least 1 4.5 star, 10 4 stars. That's not a shabby reading month, rating wise, but I did look at it and go that's interesting that it's It's so heavy in the middle, and then like lots of one book categories. For series versus standalone, it's almost directly split, with series being 55.6% and standalones being 44.4%. I'm interested to see how that changes in the upcoming month, but in general, I'm reading a lot of series because in my 75 hard reading challenge, I'm reading 30 minutes of a 12 TBRs book every day and 30 minutes of an owned book every day. Then my rule to help me manage my library loans during this has been that the only things I can check out on Libby are things that I already had a hold on prior to the start of the 75 hard reading challenge, or they belong to series that I'm already in the middle of. I've broken this rule like a handful of times, but for me, that's so good. You have no idea how bad my Libby usually is. It's usually out of control. So because of that, whenever I've felt the need to go on a bit of a Libby spree, looking for books to read, downloading them, etc., I've primarily been keeping my eye on series. So there's that. Age range, as I suspected earlier in the year, why I was like really low and I thought it would go up during the summer months, it definitely has, because that's over a quarter of the reading for last month, 25.9%. Children's being 14.8%, which interestingly enough is not strictly Magic Tree House, because we only read 2 Magic Tree House books last month. So there are 2 books that I read that were children's books that were not Magic Tree House. I read 16 adult books for 59.3%. I don't really have any feelings about that. I think that's a nice spread for me, like largely adult books, a significant chunk of YA books, and then like a couple children's books. I'm good with that. Author gender, it's pretty normal for us, like women, 55.6%. A couple with multiple authors, okay, one with multiple authors, a couple non-binary authors, some men, you know. It is how it normally looks. I don't really have anything to say about this one, so we're gonna move on. Format. This one I think is the thing I'm most proud of from this last reading month, because of the 75 hard reading challenge, I've just been killing it as far as physical owned books go. So in terms of format, I guess you can't see it as much in the format. You're going to see it more in the difference between acquired, but we've had months where like physical was quite low, or like the majority of them library books, but a lot of these physical books are owned books, so there's that. 12 physical books, 44.4%, 4 audiobooks, and 11 ebooks. That's a good spread for me. Publication date, most of them were backlist. Again, normal for me. I'm happy with it. Good. And then acquired. I did still read 13 library books, but consider the fact that a typical month for me, I read the majority library books. So like last month, out of my 30 something books, I read 25 library books. It was like almost 75% of my reading, and this time it was less than 50%, which is insane for me. I'm totally fine with reading lots of library books. It makes sense for me at this stage in my life when I don't have my whole personal library collection here with me, and I'm usually on the go, so reading on my phone is like my go-to thing. But I am happy to see that this specific reading challenge is pushing me to get some of my owned books in there, such that the library books are less than 50%. And that's also so good because of the rule that I had set for myself about what I could and could not check out on Libby right now. It's showing that that's working. I'm doing that pretty well. I set that with the goal of checking out less library books during this. That's working. I also read a couple owned ebooks, which is good. I have way too many of those, so like anytime I read one is a major victory to me. 1 Nat Galley book and 10 owned books, which for some people who like exclusively read their own books seems like nothing, but for me is crazy. Cannot remember the last time I read so many owned books. Last month I read 4. I read 11 during the month of Wonderthon, but I had also read 58 library books, so it didn't match. Basically, I usually read like 4 to 5 owned books every month, and so having it be 37% at 10 was like a huge win for me. I don't know, it just felt bigger than it probably is. But those are all my reading statistics for the month of August. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below how was your reading month in August, and have you gotten a good start to your September, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!